Hello and welcome to the second episode of Asakasa, a podcast where we try to look at some of the questions which are generally asked by youth and others regarding God, religion, faith, and difficulties in life. We are joined today by a nutritionist and cook from last episode, Shaila Demelo from St. Michael's Church, Manikpur. Hi Shaila, welcome back. How have you been?
Hello, brother. Thank you for having me back. I'm all good. How are you?
I'm doing great, Shaila. It's a pleasure to have you back again today. So, in the last episode, we tried to understand the existence of God and if it can be proven scientifically. Today, Shaila has come armed with some important points about the origins of the world from a scientific perspective and how it seems to be incompatible with the creation story from the Bible. So, Shaila, let's hear it from you. What have you got for us?
So, I have basically two main theories, that is a Big Bang theory and one is evolution of life.
Okay.
So, let's start with the Big Bang theory.
Okay.
In 1927, a Belgian Roman Catholic priest and an astronomer named Georges Lemaitre proposed the Big Bang theory. He proposed that a very long time ago, the universe started as a single point. It started at a single point. So when the universe began, it was just hot, tiny particle mixed with immense light and energy. It was nothing like what we see now. As everything expanded and took up more space, it gradually cooled down. So these tiny particles grouped together and they formed atoms. And then later on, these atoms grouped together. Over a lot of time, these atoms came together to form stars and galaxies, and also asteroids, comets, planets, and black holes.
Okay.
So, these are the main points of Big Bang theory. As far as how life was evolved on Earth, we have the theory of evolution, which was proposed by Charles Darwin. So, according to Charles Darwin theory, life has evolved from simple organisms to complex organisms. And he also explains how living things are changing today and how they are getting adapted to the modern living forms. And even as these living things evolve, they generally become better suited for the environment. This is because they evolve adaptation. So Charles Darwin also proposed another concept of natural selection, wherein he said that natural selection can change a species in small ways, which causes small population to change color or size over a several generation.
Okay.
But natural selection is also capable much more. Like if you give enough time or enough accumulated changes, natural selection can create entirely new species. Isn't that great?
Okay.
It can turn dinosaurs into birds, amphibians, mammal into whales, and the ancestors of apes into humans. Yeah, so these are the two theories which I came up with.
Okay, Shaila. So as you said, and what you said is absolutely correct. Okay, so you have the Big Bang theory and you have the theory of evolution. But the thing is like these are still called as theories, or else they would have they are not an accepted fact. If they were an accepted fact, then they would be no longer open to any debate. But the fact is like since you're saying that these are theories, okay, it shows that there is something that is incomplete in them, right? Besides, the Big Bang theory, okay, is a description of how the universe began. It is not an explanation of why it began. Okay, it does not assume anything or about who made the universe or about what came before it was, formed. As you said, it started from a single point. So where did that single point come from or what was before that single point? All these things are not really covered in that, right? And similarly, if you look at it, the evolution theory explains the how of things and not the why of things, right? So having said that, it must also be mentioned, okay, at the same time that not all the scientists are convinced about these theories. And there are still a lot of loopholes that are not explained. So it is very much possible, and this is what I really want the viewers to understand, that it is very much possible that in the future, with more scientific advancements, newer theories will emerge, and our understanding of the way the universe was formed will keep on changing.
Okay, I agree with you, brother, but these are most widely accepted theory as of today. But as we know, generally there is a perception that church does not accept these scientific findings. So now, keeping the science aside, and as a Christian, how do I look at these theories? How do I reconcile with Genesis, wherein God created Adam from dust and he took a rib from Adam and he created Eve. How do I reconcile it?
See, as far as the point that you mentioned about the church not accepting, scientific findings, that is not very accurate, because it is answered by the catechism in the UCAT especially. It says that faith is open to the findings and the hypothesis of science. And also it says that a Christian can accept this theory of evolution which you have mentioned as an helpful explanatory model, provided you do not fall into heresy. Okay, so it is possible for you to be a Christian and be scientific in your approach at the same time. Okay, now having
Okay.
said that, as far as this second point that you mentioned about the creation story from Genesis, right? So
Yeah.
over here, we need to be prepared little to expand our horizons and be prepared to critically look at what the Bible is and what it is not.
Okay, so what is the Bible exactly?
So when I say that what the Bible is and what it is not, what I'm trying to say is that the Bible is a faith account of the faithful. Okay? It is not a history or a science textbook. Hence, we
Okay.
must not look for historical or scientific facts in the Bible. Similarly, you must not look for answers to religious questions in history and scientific theories. Like, to
Okay.
give you a simple example, like, have you gone to Domino's?
Yeah.
Okay, so it's like going to Domino's and asking for biryani.
Okay.
Okay, so it is something like that. In Domino's you will get pizzas and salads and other things, but you're not going to get biryani. So
Right.
in the Bible, we are supposed to look for a faith account. It is not supposed to give us ideas about what science is and what history is. Okay, so that is something that we need to understand.
Okay, so what does the Bible tell us about if it doesn't give us historical and scientific facts?
Okay, so the Bible is the living word of God. Okay, so hence it speaks to us about our lives today. It will guide us
Okay.
and help us in making decisions in our life. It tells us what is right, what is wrong, what is expected of us, how we should live our life. It tells us about a loving God who loves us infinitely and unconditionally. So these are the things that the Bible tells us about.
Okay, so brother, as you know, when we study science, we generally consider hypothesis which needs to be
Yeah,
proved.
right.
So we do different experiments using different methods, and when we get conclusive answers, then we say that yes, the hypothesis is right, and that's how we tell the world, and
Right.
that's how we know what is truth or what is not. So now, how do we approach and understand the Bible?
Okay, so we need to understand that there are different genres in biblical literature. Okay, for example, we have myths, etiology, legends, sagas, genealogy, and therefore, when we need to understand the text, keeping in mind what kind of a writing it is. Okay, so broadly
Okay.
speaking, there are two ways in which we can read the Bible. The first one is taking the literal meaning. Okay, and the second one is trying to read it in the context in which it was written and what the intention of the
Okay.
author was.
Okay, so brother, can you give me an example what it means to take the literal meaning and the contextual meaning of biblical text?
So yes, I love this particular biblical text from the Gospel of Matthew, because it helps us to really understand the wide difference that is there between both these approaches. Okay, this is from Matthew chapter 5, verses 27 to 30. Okay, it goes like this. You have heard that it was said, you shall not commit adultery. But I say to you that everyone who looks at a woman with lust has already committed adultery with her in his heart. If your right eye causes you to sin, tear it out and throw it away. It is better for you to lose one of your members than for your whole body to be thrown into hell. And if your right hand causes you to sin, cut it off and throw it away. It is better for you to lose one of your members than for your whole body to go into hell. Okay, so this is the Bible text. So here, okay, if you take the literal meaning, so what do you think we should be doing?
So brother, we should be ideally cutting all our body parts whenever we sin.
Right, exactly. So see, this is the point that I want to make. Now, when you take the Bible literally, you're going to run into these kind of difficulties. So therefore,
Okay.
when we read the text completely, okay, we read it in context. We have to see the entire passage and then try to see what it is trying to tell us about. So in this case, okay, Jesus is speaking in the context of adultery. and the purity of the human relationships. So, one way in which
Okay.
we can interpret this text is that we need to cut out those things which are keeping us away from experiencing a full life of Christ. Okay, so he is not referring to plucking out our eyes and cutting off our hands. Okay, these are used only symbolically,
Right.
right? So if there is something in a life that is continually causing us to fall into sin, we need to cut
Mm-hmm.
that particular thing out of our lives. So it does not refer to
Okay.
cutting off our body parts, but it refers to cutting out those things which are making us fall into sin. So like for normal people who have not really studied the Bible and have not had any theological
Yeah.
education, so it can be difficult to know all these things, but still what we have is we have material that is available, which are called as Bible commentaries, okay, which are available in the form of
Okay.
books and even online. So whenever you come across a
Okay.
text which you are not able to really comprehend, I would really really recommend people to at least go online and type out and try to read about it into different two or three commentaries, so that you begin to understand what the entire context is. Okay, right. So Shaila, this is all for today that we will be discussing in terms of how we approach science and what is the relationship between science and religion and the Bible. So what is your takeaway from this discussion that we've had?
So, brother, from this discussion, my takeaway would be we can be scientific as well as religious at the same time. And also, we need to read the Bible by understanding the textual meaning instead of taking the actual or the literal meaning.
Right. Well, thanks, Sheila, for joining us today. It was a real pleasure to have you with us, and I'm sure that our viewers would have received more clarity about how to reconcile our scientific knowledge with our biblical understanding. So, do join us again for the next episode of Asakasa. Take care. God bless. Have a good day, Sheila.
Take care, brother. Bye bye.
Take care. Bye bye.